Alright, what is going on, guys? Today, I know the thumbnail, the title, it seems a little bit clickbaity, but today, I'm going to guarantee that the 2019 Challenger decks are going to be much worse than the 2018 versions. Now, that might sound just stupidly negative, and why you gotta be so negative, Mr. Affinity for MTG. The reason I'm making this video is because I do think they're gonna be worse, but I don't think it is Wizards of the Coast's fault. So let me say first that I loved the Challenger decks. As a budget-focused kind of F&M level player, I love the Challenger decks. They're great. They were fantastic. It was the best possible way to get into Standard. If you didn't buy a Challenger deck, I sincerely hope you consider it this time around, though I do think they're going to be worse. But they're fantastic. Fantastic way to get into Standard. They're good for local gaming stores. They're fantastic. I love them. I want them to continue. I hope they continue because they're great. Here's the problem. Last year, when they were first released, Standard at the time was very it was very bad. It was very bad, and it was very stale. It didn't change much. The same decks that were popular in 2017 were still popular in 2018. They were still popular right up until rotation. You know, Black Green Constrictor, Hazard Red or Mono Red, Ramunap Red, if you will. You know, all the same decks. They were very popular. Mardu Vehicles, they were popular decks, and they stayed popular and they stayed good. And unfortunately, that's not the case this time around. Unfortunately, the metagame has shifted dramatically. And if you're not familiar with these, Wizards of the Coast has said that these take something like 5 to 6 months, I think, to create. They started working on these around the time that Guilds of Ravnica was released. Now that's fine and all, but here's the problem. The decks at the time are very different from what are popular now. Basically, the metagame has shifted somewhat dramatically, and if they were basing these decks off of what were tier 1 decks at the time, unfortunately, this time around, they're just not going to be relevant. A perfect example of this is Boros Angels. Boros Angels was a tier 1 deck at the time, and it's very possible that they would use that for a Challenger deck. But now, 5 or 6 months later, the deck's not being competitive at all. It's not being seen play at basically any level. Well, it's being played at F&M, I guess, but you're not seeing it at GPs or anything very much. The deck just has kind of fallen off the map, so it's very possible that they could use that as one of the decks, and now it's kind of irrelevant. And not only is it irrelevant, but also the cards in it have plummeted in value because they are being played. So the deck plays, like Lyra Dawnbringer, History of Benalia, and let's say Aurelia. So if they were designing these decks 5 months ago, these cards would have been the big heavy hitters, right? I think Lyra at the time was close to $20. History of Benalia also was like 15 to 20, and I believe Aurelia was also like 13 to $15 or so. So they could have put one of each of these in the deck, and those would have been the big hitters, the big draw to that deck. And now, I believe the last time I checked, it's been a while, but the last time I saw Aurelia's price, I think she was down to like $4. Lyra and History of Benalia also are closer to 10 than they were before. So if those were the big hitters when they were designing these, now they're only worth like $25 to $30 in total, and that would still be close to the MSRP of a Challenger deck, but it's way less appealing and way less, like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm getting these, than they were 5 months ago. Now that's not Wizards of the Coast's fault, that's just a byproduct of the amount of time it takes to, produce these. But unfortunately, because of that, because the metagame has shifted so much, I believe that these Challenger decks are just going to be a lot less good, simply because the metagame has shifted. And I'm not saying this to complain, I'm more making this video to warn you that chances are, when these decks are announced, just be prepared for them to be outdated list, and there is a chance that they won't be worth as much simply because the prices have changed since, they were designed. I don't think Wizards of the Coast is going to try to rip people off. I don't think they're going to, try to make these decks worse. I think just incidentally, unfortunately, they are going to be worse and worth less simply because the metagame has shifted. Now, another reason I'm making this video is because I fully expect that the social media aspect of the community are probably going to be very angry. Expect that. Expect a lot of, people saying, how dare Wizards screw up Challenger decks? They were so good and now they've ruined them. I fully expect that, there will be a lot of that, but unfortunately, I just don't think it's their fault this time. It's just a timing problem. I mean, chances are, if we're going to try to predict the deck. 6 months ago, 5 months ago, the popular decks were black-green mid-range. It didn't have blue, so don't expect to get Hydroid crosses because that wasn't a thing. It was black-green mid-range. It was either Boros Angel Angels or Boros Aggro. One of those two will be a deck. I would expect Mono Red. Mono Red was still very popular at the time. And then the fourth deck would be probably Blue Red Control or Jeskai Control or some form of Is It Drake. Now here's the problem though. Here's the biggest problem with all of these is that there's a lot of red. Wizards of the Coast is going to want these to have a lot of variety. So having 3 out of 4 of the decks be red would be bad. So I would expect the blue-red deck, if it's a control deck, to go down to blue-white, or the Boros Angels or aggro deck to go to mono-white. So we might see like a mono-white Angels without Aurelia, or we might see just the mono-white aggro or white weenie deck. And that gives you all the types of decks too. You get 2 aggro decks, you get a control deck, and you get a mid-range deck. You know, you get a variety of colors, every color represented. So something like that. Either way, it's not going to be Sultai control or Sultai mid-range. It's not going to be Esper control. All of that stuff is not going to be a thing, even though that is the competitive scene right now. You know, you're not going to see Gates, you're not going to see Nexus of Fate, you're not going to see any of those things. It's going to be decks from 6 months ago, and unfortunately, you know, it's not their fault, but I do expect the community feedback to be a lot more negative simply because the metagame is more diverse, it's shifted more. That's a good thing for Standard, but it is a bad thing for Challenger decks. So, you know, by all means, if you do see people complaining about this, I'd fully expect there to be lots of complaints. Feel free to send them to this video. You know, it's not their fault, but it's going to be a thing. And hopefully, you know, we can see some reason here. It's just a byproduct of how long these things take. And I don't think that Wizards of the Coast should be, you know, hammered too hard for this, but I do expect it to be, you know, not so great. The good news is, even if it is like a Boros Angels is still pretty good at an FNM level. There's someone at my local FNM who plays it, and deck still performs pretty well at that level. So deck still wouldn't be bad, but it's just not going to be as crazy as last year when you're getting like Walking Ballistas and Chandras and stuff in the decks. Like, instead, you're going to be getting Aurelia and Lyra Dawnbringer, and those are just less good than they used to be. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to talk about this for a bit. Wanted to kind of dampen people's you know, expectations. Look, the Challenger decks are still great. Just expect some issues this time around due to the shifting metagame. That's all I'm saying. Just expect that. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.